If we were to be honest, the globalization of society has highlighted the darkness of the heart of humanity in ways never before experienced, not just by Americans, but by everyone. We've begun to see the world, the real world, as it really is, and our neighbors for who they really are, and sometimes ourselves for who we really are. So with 3.8 billion smartphone neighbors, that can be a little scary, or a lot scary to think about. How many neighbors we have in our global community that we can pick up the phone and contact at any moment. Well, can you imagine being dropped into a world where there were no Christians, where no one loved God or followed his ways, a world where everyone did what was right in his or her own eyes, a world where everyone focused on his or her needs only and was always trying to get the best of others? Can you imagine a world where government was oppressive and forceful and religious cults were rampant, a world where knowledge was abundant and increasing exponentially and wisdom was seemingly nowhere to be found? Can you imagine such a world? Well, a world where pleasure and the pursuit of passions of the heart were flaunted on every corner. Can you imagine such a place? Titus could. Titus could. We're going to look at Titus today. Chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, on the island of Crete. Interesting little island. Met a guy from Crete once. He was a great guy. I believe, was Sam from Crete? He was from Crete. I want to say he was. Or maybe he was. We believe he was from Crete. From Crete. Yeah, that's right. I met one person from Crete. But I bet you I could meet somebody right now from Crete. I could pick up my phone and connect with somebody in Crete. Do you believe I could? I'm not going to show you, but I bet you I could. Well, Crete was used for a time, from about 14 to 37 AD, as a place for exiles from Rome. You know, the people that Rome couldn't put up with, they'd just send them to Crete. You know, they were too extreme, or they were too something. They were too over the top. It was either death or exile. They would send, there were other places too. Crete was one of the places under Tiberius where they sent exiles from Rome. There were Roman citizens there, of course, people of also of Jewish descent, plethora of religious beliefs from the pantheon of Greek gods and goddesses, mixture of Jewish practices, all kinds of religious goings-on. Paul quoted one of Crete's own prophets, Epimenides, who said, one of Crete's own, Paul in chapter 1, verse 12 said, one of Crete's own prophets has said, Cretans are always liars, evil brutes, and lazy gluttons. Can you imagine? And I thought about that. There's this paradox, right? If he was a Cretan and he said, all Cretans are liars, was he lying when he said that? So therefore, all Cretans are honest people. Never mind. It's one of those paradoxes. One writer said it this way: Titus dropped off there by Paul, left there by Paul, probably near or in the city of Gortyn, the provincial capital, and that his task as apostolic delegate was to establish a body of elders, or elders in all the churches in all the cities on the island. 20 or so that we can guess, cities there on the island. These were first-generation Christians, understand, that Titus was working with. These were not people who grew up in church. These were people who didn't understand the Christian way. So they were coming to understand it. And so Paul in chapter 3, and where we're going to get to today, and really I pray that will be a message for today on this 245th anniversary of our country, about how Christians can and should live in a world like that and like this. Paul writes to Titus, and we'll put these up on the screen and just chat about them as we go. Remind the people, chapter 3, verse 1, remind the people to be subject to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, and to be ready to do whatever is good. Why do we need to be reminded to do that? Well, because sometimes we forget. Christians are to be good citizens in the world. They are to be people that set an example of how to live a life of love in the nation of which they are a part. They're to be good citizens So if you find me constantly out breaking the law and doing what you would say, Pastor, there you are on the side of the road again with the blue light behind you. What is going on, right? Remind our pastor to slow down, and drive, to be subject to the authorities, to obey the speed limit.